let's talk about data privacy, but maybe not in the way you're used to thinking about it. See, we always frame it as this technical problem, right? It's about code and compliance and all these complicated regulations. But what if it's actually much more human than that? What if, at its core, it's really all about trust? Okay, let's dive in. I want to start with a few numbers. 400,000 Kenyan shillings. 250,000. And 200,000. So, what are these? What do they all have in common? Well, these are fines. Fines that were recently handed down by Kenya's Office of the Data Protection Commissioner, and each one of them represents a moment where that digital bond between a company and its customer just snapped. Each one tells a story of a data privacy failure. What's really striking is how normal these failures feel. That first number, the 400,000 shilling fine, that was for a company that took someone's data for one reason and then just used it for something else entirely, no permission asked. The second fine, that was a major bank making a pretty simple mistake, sending a customer statement to the wrong email. Whoops. And the third one? A digital lender that failed to properly lock down the really sensitive financial data of its users. You see, these aren't abstract problems. They happen to real people. And that really gets to the heart of it. We can keep patching the software, we can keep training the staff, but this stuff just keeps happening. So what if we're looking at it all wrong? What if the problem isn't a bug in the code, but a crack in the relationship between the company and, us? To really explore that idea, let's try a different lens. Let's use a powerful concept, reconciliation. Now, usually we think about that in our personal lives, right? Restoring friendly relations after a fight. But what happens if we apply that exact same idea to data? It means you're actively working to build and, when necessary, rebuild trust with the very people whose information you're holding. It's a complete mindset shift. So how do we actually do that? Well, this framework here gives us a path. And look, it's not a technical manual. It's a guide for building relationships. It's based on principles we all understand, like respect, communication, setting boundaries, and defining your non-negotiables. It's a way to put the human element back in the center of the conversation. And it can turn privacy from a liability you have to avoid into an asset that actually builds loyalty. Let's see how this could have totally changed the outcome in those real-world cases. Okay, let's go back to that first case, the 400,000 shilling fine for using data without consent. The failure here was a fundamental lack of respect. The framework fix is so simple, but it's powerful. Treat user data as if it were your own. Act with integrity. Uphold the promise you made when you collected it. With this kind of mindset, misusing data isn't just a compliance issue, it feels like a personal violation. Now for case number 2, the bank that sent a statement to the wrong email. Look, mistakes happen, it's human, but the relationship is either saved or destroyed in the moments right after. Instead of a quiet fix and hoping nobody notices, the framework calls for open communication. Be candid about it. Acknowledge the error, do it immediately, do it transparently. Owning the mistake actually builds more trust than pretending it never happened. And what about the digital lender that exposed financial data? This is where the strongest principles of the framework really come into play. First, you've got to set boundaries. That means saying no to risky practices or lazy security. And second, you have to establish non-negotiables. These are the bright red lines that you absolutely will not cross, no matter what. When protecting user data becomes a non-negotiable, it changes every single decision your company makes. Just imagine if every company adopted that as their mantra. Your privacy is our non-negotiable. It's so much more than a slogan, isn't it? It's a promise. It transforms privacy from this boring legal obligation into a core value, a fundamental part of the relationship you have with your customers. So, what's the big idea here? It's really all about shifting our perspective. Like this slide says, this isn't about ticking boxes on a checklist. That approach is clearly not working. This is about building and nurturing an ongoing relationship, one that's built on respect, communication, and, most of all, trust. That's how you build a resilient brand, not just a compliant one. So here's what to take away from all this. First, the next time you see a data breach in the news, look for the relationship failure behind the technical one. Second, a human-centric framework like reconciliation actually gives us a real path forward. And third, and this is the most important one, remember that in today's digital economy, trust isn't just a nice to have. It is the single most valuable asset a company has, period. Which leaves us with one final question, something for you to think about. As you go about your day interacting with dozens of companies online, just ask yourself this. Is your data just being managed by them, or is it truly being respected? The answer to that question, well, it changes everything. Thanks for watching.